Hey guys, today I think I just want to make a house in this lonely world. Everything's been scaled up quite a bit, as I'm sure you probably already noticed. The only thing I didn't scale up, for once, was monsters. For this video, I decided to go with a much more laid-back approach to its style. Less fancy editing, less exciting music, something to take me, and hopefully you as well, back to how I used to play Minecraft. Just relaxing after going to middle school and coming home to play in bed. Exploration, resource gathering, and building. This was what used to make my Minecraft experience, unless I had someone to play with, which I currently do not. So, as all worlds do, we begin by just gathering some logs. For this house, I think I want to make the frame entirely out of logs, and fill in the blank space with glass, cobblestone, or just some planks. But before I do any of that, I want to get equipped with some iron armor and tools. Also in this video, probably for this entire world, I have no intention of fighting the Ender Dragon because it is insanely difficult and pretty much requires me to have a partner to beat it. So we can go ahead and get started on the tools. Now, we can get coal with relative ease from the small holes in the surface. Iron is a little different. Still not too difficult though, just a bit of a walk because this world unfortunately doesn't grant the easiest access to caves, but it does come with massive mountains. These are where I plan to get our iron from. We'll go caving strictly for when we need diamonds, because cave entrances, or good ones I should say, are excessively rare. But, of course, staying out of caves doesn't necessarily mean staying out of danger, as there are still monsters to deal with. That's besides the point though. Since mountains do come with an abundance of iron, especially with this world generation, we don't have to spend much time worried about getting it. And instead, after we finish melting and make it back down to our plot of land, we can move on to starting to put together our home. So now that we've obtained iron armor and tools, we can get started with the house. The first thing to handle is obviously going to be deciding on the frame of this whole thing. One thing I know for sure though is that I want something small to contrast with the expansiveness of the world. I also know that I'm going to stick to using spruce logs for the majority of the home itself and the surrounding structures. By surrounding structures, I mean I want to build a farm and 2 pens to keep a horse and sheep because I want an animal food source, and also a way to get around because I'll probably never have an elytra. Which means horses are my next best bet because who uses minecarts? Too expensive and slow. Horses are cheap and easy. However, we'll be getting them later because we will need a saddle to ride them. We can still make other friends though, like the dog folk who carry my items. But to be honest, they're really more like my only company here, so I just keep them around. And now, onto our first actual building for our home. The cage for our sheep. And I don't plan on having a whole lot of sheep because this world isn't going to last long enough for that, but I do plan on making changes to it later, so for now it's just going to be fences. I do want it to have a unique shape though, so I changed up the corners a little. And once we do finish building the cage, we'll move on to getting our first 2 sheep. We'll expand on these guys later, but that's not really that important. Because meanwhile they have their first child, we'll go ahead and get started on the actual house, beginning with the base, where I decided to fill in an interior outline before making an exterior outline to make sure that I have as much space as I desire on the inside. And then, following this interior, we'll now work on the exterior skeleton of the house. And this is going to cost us quite a few logs. As a matter of fact, we actually had to take a little break to go and get more logs for the house. Nevertheless, when nighttime came back around, we were back to doing our thing, because I wanted to finish this house as soon as possible and I had no plan of letting the night get in the way of that. So we kept building. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. How does this even happen? Nobody move, bro. And after finishing the exterior skeleton of the house, I could go back into the interior and fill it in with the wood planks to make sure that the colors lined up the way I wanted them to. And now that all of that is over, the last thing we really need is to get glass, which is a much heavier task than you'd expect due to the fact that sand doesn't actually spawn in rivers, as I just came to find out. And as you can see, this world is huge, so there's no telling where I'll find sand at. However, we can still work on some other things while we explore for it, namely getting an enchanting table and hopefully finding sugarcane, which is another rare find due to the world generation being changed. And that shouldn't really be a problem though, because the only thing I need that for is books, which I can always just steal from villages. Anyways, while exploring, I found this huge cave and decided that if I ever wanted to get diamonds, this was probably going to be one of my best chances. So I put the sand mission aside and decided we'll focus on caving for a bit. This really shouldn't take us too long because we're only here for diamonds and then to get a little obsidian so we can make an enchanting table and nether portal when we go back home. I already gathered some books earlier from the first village we visited, so I can at least craft the table. Getting the bookshelves, on the other hand, is going to take another village visit, so we'll handle that after we get back home. But getting these first materials is pretty easy because diamonds are incredibly abundant, and obsidian as well, just lava, because of course I brought a water bucket with me. And to be honest, the bookshelves aren't actually all that important. I won't be fighting anybody, and regular monsters simply are not strong enough to call for enchantments. So what I'm really trying to do is just get decorations for my house because I think bookshelves look really nice. Back to where we currently are, after finding this little lava pool, I spent a few moments getting 14 obsidian, as I always do, and then decided that I had more than enough diamonds and that it was finally time to head back home. So by this point, I have quite a few items on me, so the first thing I want to do after making it home and dealing with some monsters is add some chests so I can finally put away some stuff. There aren't supposed to be many chests as this is still mostly aesthetic, but still serves to hold my stuff. And after I do put away my random items, I move on to crafting the enchanting table, which will be developed later, and then move on to laying out our nether portal. Following this, I grab a little gravel from the river nearby the house, which I'll dig through for flint, make a flint and steel, and then light up our nether portal. However, even after all this time, we're still missing something from our house, and that is the glass. The same thing we left to find earlier and ended up getting diamonds instead. So we're back here, but I do know where we can find some glass this time because I saw a little beach while searching for the cave for the diamonds. So of course, we'll take the easy route to sand and just head there and take what we need, which to be honest really isn't that much because a lot of the glass that we're getting is going to be converted into glass panes. So after gathering a couple stacks of sand, we can head back home and move forward with smelting it and crafting the panes so we can finally finish the main house outside of those bookshelves. So, after finishing the main part of the house, I decided I wanted to make our farm a little better by making it bigger and by also adding a small enclosure dedicated just to potatoes. I wanted this enclosure to be made out of cherry logs, so I went for a little walk, gathered some logs, and actually got back our pets, which we lost a little while ago when we were searching for sand and diamonds. But now it's time to return to the farm and add this little pathway that I thought about because I thought it might be cool to have a nice river running through the farm. And now we can work on making that enclosure. And while we won't be fully populating it just yet because I want it to be entirely made of potatoes, the next thing that I want to work on is polishing up the sheep farm after the little lightning incident that happened earlier, which gave me the idea to replace some of the corners with just logs to make it look a little better. And after finishing the sheep farm, the only thing that I'm really missing from my house is a spot for my horse. But if I'm going to make a spot for my horse, I want to already have a horse, which means I'm going to need a saddle, and to get a saddle I need to loot treasure. And what's an easy place to get saddles from? A nether fortress. So I went ahead and spent a little time in the nether. It was actually quite a bit of time in the nether, which was mostly spent either searching this fortress for saddles or finding this fortress, until eventually I got tired of this and decided I'd just go home and try something else, where I actually found out that apparently you can craft saddles in the newest version of Minecraft, so I wasted a whole bunch of time. Anyways, I went ahead and found a horse, got a horse, and now I was ready to build that stable, get those bookshelves, and finally call this house finished. Also, apparently I got the books for bookshelves a long time ago, so it's actually not really a worry anymore. Back to the stable though, this isn't really something I'd usually build, or really ever build, but I wanted to actually make this house feel a little more complete by having more than just resourceful type structures, which is what the sheep farm serves as, and what the potato enclosure serves as. This stable here is really just meant to make my horse look nice because I could just attach it on a lead and leave it be. But since we're getting so close to finishing the house, I thought I would add a little something special before we finally wrap everything up. And by wrap everything up, I mean getting to enchant my hoe and then filling out the rest of the farm with the necessary crops. Namely being potatoes, because seeds have been pretty easy to come by up to this point. And once we do finish with this, my house is as finished as it needs to be, especially for a single player world where I have 0 goals outside of this house. The experience was pretty laid back and I did enjoy getting to experience this kind of world generation for the first time, but I think something like this would be significantly better enjoyed if you did it with someone else. So if you watched to this point, I know this video was a lot different from my others because I didn't use replay mod and really avoided the typical excitement to try something different. And for that, I've got to say I really appreciate you for watching this far, and you should leave a comment letting me know if you like this or not. Regardless, I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for sticking around.